Using the tools that we've covered so far, different types of transformations and replications, we can start to create some interesting patterns, interesting geometric patterns. So if we look at just kind of using the circle, for example, and draw a circle, I'm going to draw a circle clicking here, and then I'm going to copy this over, maybe over to here, and I'm gonna just scale this circle so that it's maybe half the size. So I'm gonna scale this object, press enter, my base point, I'll use my snap to choose the center of this circle, and my scale factor will be 0.5. So now I can kind of use the tween curves tool to transition from this larger circle to this smaller circle. And when I do this, you could see that it previews, it actually has this white dot here, and on the small circle it's in the same location. That's because we copied it. But basically whenever we're drawing closed shapes, polylines or circles, and different polygons, those curves have a start point. The curve goes around and it ends at that same start point. So we'll talk about this a little bit more, but this gets into the kind of way that NURBS curves work, and we have a start and end point. So right now when I kind of, let's say, increase this number to 12 for the tween curves, or maybe I'll lower that so they're not intersecting each other, something like a number of 10, they're all kind of going evenly in the same direction because our start and end point of this curve is in the same location on both of those. So I'll just go ahead and enter and accept that. So again, we can just, I could type in the command copy and then just kind of fence and select all of these circles. And I'm just going to copy from here to there, for example, and I'm going to use the gumball just by selecting everything, and I'm going to click on the blue arc to just rotate these 180 degrees and press enter. So if I were to just take this kind of set of circles and begin to copy these, we can start to create a pretty interesting pattern or effect. Where the kind of medium-sized circles are in the center, and then the kind of larger and small circles are on the side. So so this is kind of an example of how we can begin to just replicate curves and start to kind of create some visually interesting patterns. So just one other thing to note, like if I were to delete all of these in the middle and I was to apply a tween curves between these two circles, this beginning one here and this top one here, because these were rotated, now you'll see when I type in tween curves and select this is my start, this is the end, you could see that that start and end point is now on the opposite side. So this works a little bit differently now, because now when I, let's say, enter a number of 6 replications and I preview this, you'll see that it's basically kind of twisting that curve. So we end up with a moment here where we get like much smaller circles than we started with, because it's transitioning from this curve with the start and end point on the right side to this curve with the start and end point on the left side. So we end up with this kind of strange transition, and it's just something to kind of be aware of. You can begin to use it. Maybe this is the effect that you want to get, and have this kind of change in scale. But as you're working with other closed polygons, you might start to see those effects a little bit more. So for example, if we were to go from let's say a square shape to a circle, we might end up creating a tween curves starting with this square to this circle, and you could see that this particular rectangle tool has the start and end point of the curve on the bottom left corner of the rectangle or square. And our circle, again, because I clicked to the right as I was defining the circle, it's on the right side. So one thing that we could do, if I were to just tween curves between this start and this end, and let's say 8 replications in between, you can see again we're getting this kind of twisting happening because it's trying to go from the bottom left corner of the start and end point to the right side. So that's what that would look like. But one thing we could do if we want to make these a little more even and consistent is I'm going to rotate this 45 degrees, and I'm going to rotate this minus 90 degrees. And now when I'm basically rotating these geometries so that when I execute the tween curves command, now you can see that the start and end points are both on the bottom center of each shape. So I'm going to go ahead and accept these, and now you could see, or if I do this again with maybe fewer in between so they're not overlapping, I'm going to change this number to 7. And now you could see that we have kind of an even transition, and we could begin to do things like before, begin to copy these curves and create some kind of other pattern, again just kind of using copy and rotate. We can start to create some pretty interesting geometric patterns by using pretty simple tools and commands, and we might even want to just kind of move these a little bit closer. Oops, missed that one. We can move these closer to each other so they're almost overlapping a little bit, and have some kind of rule or some kind of method that we're measuring from to get some kind of consistency. But you get the idea that we can begin to use these kind of tools in different ways to create these different geometric forms and patterns, and just being aware of how that each of these curves have certain start and end points, and we can work with those in different ways as well.